My name is Luyanda Shosha and I'm the co-founder of the award-winning JanRiches Savings Club. I think the one thing that really impacted our constitution and the development of the constitution is that we already had a constitution and we'd already been sharing it quite far and wide with our members. But I think the thing that helped in the sessions was just to streamline some of the points that we were trying to reiterate in the constitution. So it really helped to land some of the things that we were trying to communicate and to clarify on some of the points around each of the sections that we have in the Constitution. So I think the moderator really helped us in trying to really look at the Constitution and make sure that everything was landing the way we wanted it to land. So JanRiches has always been a two-woman show. So we have our chairperson, Dogozo Mapumulo, and myself as the treasurer, and we both co-founded JanRiches 10 years ago. So I think those structures are not your conventional structures that you normally get in a stokvel, but it really helped us to put it in a way that people would understand how we run the stokvel and how our governance structures are very different. Yes, we had a lot of advice in order for us to add more people, to be more accountable, but I think we were able to sort of show that a governance structure doesn't need to necessarily be the same as all stokvels, but we also took the input from the program very well in order for us to say, how do we become more accountable through just having this two-woman structure in our stokvel. I think it's also the one that I was mentioning, the first one, is that it's just helped us to really streamline, clarify, make it a bit clearer what we're trying to land, but also it's also really helped in us also getting the information to say over-communicating is always a great way to deal with transparency. So I think that's been a very key thing that we've learned from the program. The bank account, I think, is probably one of the biggest ones because we wanted to move from the current provider that we were with to a new one. So it really helped us to also ensure how do we communicate that to our members? How are we more transparent in letting our members know? And luckily, when we were transitioning from one bank account to another, we were already part of the program. So that really helped us to sort of say, how do we communicate with our members, make sure that we are taking them along the journey when we're transitioning, and I think that's really helped. With the industry bodies, I think one thing that we did consider doing is to register our stokvel, but the direction of which the stokvel is going, it made more sense for us to formalize in a different way, where we're moving away from just being a stokvel, but to being a company that wants to develop applications and systems that will help the stokvel grow. So I think that was the key thing for us. And that's one of the key takeaways that we actually took from the program. The key thing that we took away, especially from the savings and investments, was that I don't think we knew of a lot of the options that we had, especially around group savings. It's very hard to find an institution that allows people to save as a group. So you'll get your banks that have the stokvel accounts and have the right interest, or not the right interest, but interest-bearing accounts. But we wanted something more. And I think those classes really helped us to understand what other opportunities are out there. We didn't know that there were some of the big investment institutions offered group savings. We didn't know that, for example, their JSE has a stokvel account. So there was a lot of information that we really gained around what can we change going forward and which investment opportunities we can actually seek out as a group instead of individual. I think we had a lot of information around what could potentially be there as individual investing, but not as a group. So not necessarily contributing to our stokvel revenue, as we've reiterated, our stokvel runs from Jan to Jan. So because the program is running in the middle of our cycle, we haven't been able to really institute some of those investment strategies, but it's allowed us to start thinking about how we can introduce investment strategies. I think one of the key things that was introduced was that how do we get everyone on board with investing, because our members are used to saving in Jan, getting their money in Jan, yes, with interest, but how do you then get everyone on board to say, let's be a bit more riskier, let's invest more. And one of the things that the moderator really helped us understand is that you can take some people on the journey and you can give other people the option to just stick with what they are used to and are comfortable with. So one of our strategies is trying to incorporate a way that you can invest but still have different avenues and pockets of investing with each member. I mean, we are 120 odd members, so it's really about offering certain members a certain option and then seeing where that investment could go. Well, again, it's different, right? But we did reach 1.25 million last year as a stokvel. And I think that's when we also started thinking, how can we make this money grow more for our people, our members? So the strategies that we're thinking about are saying, how can we make that turnover more impactful? How can we get people to save more? How can we get people to have the greater January and have greater investments than what we're currently having? So our strategies are focused on really saying, we have R1 million in the account. Where do we put that into and where does it grow? So I think when it comes to the overall financial management strategies, the key thing is that yes, we are fully digital, but a lot of the back-end work is still very manual from Ntokozo and I's perspective. So financial management wasn't necessarily about growing the contribution, but also about how do we better manage the contributions and the transparency, taking away a lot of that manual labor. So what we use the program to sort of get us an idea of how that could look, whether it's a web application, whether it's a mobile app, how do we better financially manage the money that's currently in the stokvel? So I think that was the most impact, and how do we then also do around ownership of that app, of that mobile app or web application. I think that was the biggest thing around financial management. I think the mentorship was key in just delving into the different options. I think there was a lot of mention around ETFs. There was a lot of mentions around group savings. There was a lot of mentioning around medium and short-term investments and the risks that's associated with different types of investments. So that's really deepened our knowledge around those different type of investment strategies. And it's something that earlier mentioned that we would really like to look more into. How do we entice our members? How do we grow the money that our members are investing and so forth? I think the one key thing, and I think it's something that Ntokozo and I were really at loggerheads with, was whether or not we needed to establish more of a legal entity in order for us to be able to manage our finances better. And I think one of the moderators really helped us understand, firstly, the governance structures of different legal entities and how that could impact the financial management of our investments. And also, if we're thinking about this digital platform or this web application, then it needs to be, because it's intellectual property, it needs to be then owned by a legal entity rather than a stokvel, which unfortunately isn't a legal entity at the moment, hoping that will change in future. But it really helped us to say, if we're going to have this digital platform or this web application or application that's going to help us run our finances, then we needed to solidify the legal entity of the stokvel. So it really helped us sort of think around, how do we do that? How do we start putting together our heads around what would that mean for our stokvel? So I think that's the one key thing, the formalization of the stokvel. So what we decided to do was then to do a private company in supporting the direction that we're trying to do as a stokvel. So as I mentioned, the application needed to be owned by a legal entity, because then that's better management of what the stokvel would bring. So what we decided to do is that we formalized the structure in a way that we would then be able to build processes and also get it to run in a company format. So that's really helped us formalize. And I don't think we would have had that sort of push if we didn't get a view of all the different formalizations that we could have ventured into, because a lot was discussed: NPOs, collective agreement, I know I've got that wrong, and also a company structure. But yes, it really helped us sort of think, where would we like to take it? And I think the formalization really helped us understand that. I think there has been. I think Ndogozen and I have started to introduce a lot more structure, because we're really trying to land such a big thing. It's really sort of set us in a direction that has made us really formalize simple things, as we need to meet every week in order for us to bed down what needs to be done, because now we're a registered company and we need to get things off the ground. So I think the formalization has really helped in order to sort of build certain structures in place for us to get where we need to get. So yeah, I think it has helped, and I think that's just the beginning. I think it's going to help a lot more as we start developing, as we get more funding, as we basically launch the app and get the funding and impact more lives through JanRiches.